Picture this. You're on a ship out on the open ocean. Everything looks calm. But what if I told you that just beneath the waves, a silent, invisible threat could be lurking? For over a century, that threat has been the naval mine, a hidden weapon that has completely reshaped warfare at sea. And its story is way more fascinating than you might think.
So when I say naval mine, I'm willing to bet this is the exact image that pops into your head, right? That classic, spiky black ball. Something straight out of an old war movie or maybe even a cartoon. It's totally iconic. But what if I told you that image is completely out of date?
Because this is what a modern naval mine actually looks like. Yeah, it's less of a floating bomb and a lot more like a dormant torpedo. It's sleek, it's packed with advanced electronics, and it sits silently on the seabed, just waiting.
So that brings us to the big question for this whole explainer. How on earth did we get from that simple, spiky ball to this sophisticated, autonomous predator of the sea? Well, it's a fascinating story of technological one-upmanship.
Okay, let's start at the very beginning. The original naval mines were born from a really simple but brutally effective idea. Just put an explosive in the water and wait for a ship to bump into it. The design was pretty straightforward. The mine itself would float, but it was tethered by a cable to an anchor on the seafloor, keeping it lurking just below the surface. And those famous spikes? Those were actually the contact fuses. If a ship's hull bumped into one, it completed a circuit, and boom. These simple traps first showed up in conflicts like the American Civil War, but they really became a dominant weapon in World War I, where massive minefields turned huge parts of the ocean into deadly no-go zones.
But the real game changer came when mines no longer needed to be physically touched. Nope, they evolved to detect the influence of a ship passing nearby. And this is where they really started to get smart.
Think about the leap in strategy here. With a contact mine, a ship basically had to be unlucky. But with influence mines, which really came into their own during World War II, they could detect a ship's massive magnetic field or even just the sound of its engines. This meant mines could be placed deeper, totally hidden on the seafloor, turning them into a cheap but devastating tool for strategic blockades.
Of course, for every new weapon, there's a new defense. Navies quickly realized their huge steel ships were basically giant floating magnets, a dead giveaway. So, to counter the magnetic mines, they developed a process called degaussing. By running electrical cables around the hull, they could literally cancel out the ship's magnetic signature, making them invisible to the mines. The deadly chess match just kept on going.
Which brings us to the modern era and the smart mine revolution. You see, these aren't just traps anymore. They are fully autonomous, robotic sentinels that guard the seas.
Modern mines, like this one, are so complex that they need completely separate versions just for training. On the left, you've got the live weapon, camouflaged for the seabed, and on the right, a bright orange dummy version for exercises. That distinction alone tells you we've moved far beyond simple explosives and into the realm of highly sophisticated modular weapon systems.
And just look at these specs. They're incredible. A modern mine isn't just waiting for one trigger, it's a multi-influence weapon. It's sensing everything all at once. The change in water pressure from a hull passing overhead, the magnetic and electrical fields that the ship gives off, and the unique sound of its engines. It's a whole suite of sensors, putting all those clues together to identify the perfect target.
And the acoustic sensor is particularly brilliant. You see, every single ship's engines and machinery produce a unique sound profile. You can think of it like an acoustic fingerprint or even its DNA. A smart mine can be programmed to ignore all the civilian traffic, ignore friendly warships, and just wait, silently, for the specific acoustic signature of one particular class of enemy submarine.
And when it finds its target, well, this simulation shows you just how devastating it is. A modern mine doesn't just blow a hole in a ship, it's designed to detonate underneath the hull. This creates a massive gas bubble that actually lifts the ship up and then collapses, generating a powerful shockwave that breaks the vessel's keel, basically its spine. The goal isn't just to damage the ship, it's to snap it in half. So, we've got these incredibly advanced weapons, but how do you actually get them into position without the enemy knowing? Let's take a look at how these deadly traps are laid.
The versatility here is just staggering. You've got your traditional method with dedicated mine-laying ships, sure, but for stealth, submarines can launch them from their torpedo tubes deep in enemy waters. For speed and scale, military aircraft can just drop them by parachute, seeding a huge area of the ocean from above. For deniability,
You can even use improvised vessels, like civilian ferries for clandestine operations. And the future? Even quieter, with large unmanned drones, placing them with no human crew anywhere in sight.
Now, for every mine layer, there has to be a mine hunter. So let's flip the script and look at the incredibly dangerous and complex game of actually finding and neutralizing these hidden threats. And this really is the fundamental challenge for any Navy out there. How do you find and defeat a weapon that's designed from the ground up to be invisible, silent, and incredibly patient? Well, the answer is a field called mine countermeasures, or MCM. And the golden rule of modern MCM is simple: get the human out of the minefield. Instead of sending manned minesweeper ships into a known danger zone, the focus now is all on using remote and robotic systems to do the risky work. A perfect example is a vehicle like this one, the Caster C. It's a small, remotely operated drone. A mothership can stay a safe distance away, deploy this little guy, and pilot it right up to a suspected mine. Once it's in position, it detonates a special shaped charge that destroys the mine, all without risking a single sailor's life. So what this all means is that mines aren't just tactical weapons anymore. They are major pieces on the global strategic chessboard, especially when it comes to controlling the world's most critical waterways. And naval strategists are thinking about this constantly. Future ships, like this concept for a new light amphibious warship, are actually being designed with mine laying as a core mission. The ability to quickly seed a contested strait or harbor with smart mines, that's a huge strategic advantage. And this is the key takeaway. You don't even have to detonate a single mine for it to be effective. Just the threat that a shipping lane might be mined can be enough to shut down maritime trade, bottle up an enemy fleet in its port, and shape an entire conflict, all without a single explosion. That's the power of sea denial. And this quote really sums it all up perfectly. Mines have provided strategic messaging and imposed mobility paralysis on adversaries without sinking a single ship. From a simple floating bomb to a smart robotic sentinel, the naval mine proves that sometimes the most powerful weapon at sea is the one you never even see.